Hello, everyone. It is Pat, and I am back with our monthly reading, looking into the angels and energies for the month of May. In the interest of time, I've gone ahead and picked some cards for us um, to see what's coming up. But just know, going into this month of May, for the first half of it, we are still in the energy of Mercury retrograde. I think we come out of it somewhere mid-month. I don't know exact dates yet. But so if you've had, technology issues going on or things that you had to repeat or redo, that's Mercury retrograde energy. But it's a great time. Mercury retrograde is a great time to be reflective and to use your quiet time when you have it, if you have it, to journal or work with what's coming up for you. um, I know I've been kind of doing a deep dive into my own issues, emotions, noticing what feelings I have come up in certain situations, and just kind of looking at it and saying, what's going on with that. So anyways, just an FYI. But let's get into I've pulled some archangel cards. I always do. And this month I've pulled from Colette Baron Reed's Wisdom of the Oracle deck. Okay. So let's see what we've got. So for archangels, we have first we have Zadkiel with this message of clear audience. And it says, notice the loving guidance you hear inside your mind or from other people. So, in May, you may find yourself doing a lot of listening, or you're going to be hearing a lot of things over the news, okay, as things get exposed and come to light, et cetera, et cetera. So Zadkiel is a very quiet angel, but very, I would say, studious. He works with your intellect. And this message often comes up too if we've put out, requests to the universe, to our angels, guides, even our deceased loved ones in spirit, for help, guidance, or just contact. Sometimes this shows up as something you hear inside your head, or you might hear it from somebody else. They work through other people, or you might hear it through a song that you're listening to on the radio. Maybe the lyrics in some ways stand out to you as they haven't before. So you're hearing things differently, okay? Or you're more aware of what you're hearing, okay, from within yourself, but also from other people, okay? This card can show up in a variety of ways. It just means that this month there's um, and maybe you're paying more attention or focus to what you're hearing from other people. Maybe you're noticing that someone that you associate with, is a really negative talker or thinker or something like that. You're like really hearing their words for the first time, and you may be thinking, gosh, this person just always seems to be complaining or something like that. So that's what it's about. It's really noticing. I mean, it can certainly mean that if you're meditating more and exploring more of your spiritual and intuitive abilities, that you're getting more clairaudient, which is what you hear inside your mind. Or it also can be, as I mentioned, things that you hear out loud in the world, but that come as an answer to something that you're wondering about. So Zadkiel's working with us this month on this. Also, I find, can be compassionate listening, in the sense of you might be giving a compassionate ear. Ooh, I got my kitty coming to say hello. Say hi, Angel. You might be being a very compassionate ear for someone who's going through a difficult time. She has a lovely way of getting right in front of things. Come here. Hello. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Okay. And that person that you may be giving a compassionate ear to may be a soulmate. Okay. Because we also have this card from Shamuel. It says, beloved one. And the message on the card says, I'm helping you with your spiritual soulmate relationship. Pardon my cat. She loves to howl in the background. Um, Now, a soulmate relationship doesn't necessarily mean it's a romantic one. We have all sorts of, there are different kinds of soulmate relationships. Um, for me, I think of it as someone you just have a very much a bond with in some way. And so, but in essence, Shemuel is an angel that helps us to work on relationships. And that may be the person that you're having more attentive listening to. Okay. And Shemuel is helping us. Shemuel is an angel that helps us to, um, he helps us work in our relationships, but he also, I want to say, helps to um, transmute energies of pain to peace. Okay. So, we're evaluating our relationships on many levels. We might be evaluating them at personal levels, but we're also evaluating the relationships in our leaders, the leaders the people that we've elected into offices. Because there's a lot of information that's coming up about them now, and some of it isn't always good. So we're evaluating our relationships at a variety of different. You might be evaluating your relationships with your coworkers, your relationship to your employer, or your own inner relationship to yourself. But he's an angel who oversees, and with this card that's come up, the relationships that I think that people we have a bond with. And yes, if you are in the market looking or hoping for more of a romantic partner, a significant other in your life, Shemuel in this card also symbolizes work going on with that. And the final card is another one actually from Zadkiel. So Zadkiel is a strong, exerting a strong presence here this month in our cards for the month of May. And I mentioned in the clear audience card about compassionate listening. And this is what this card is also about. It's about having compassion in general. He's like, soften your heart with respect to the situation and all the people involved, including yourself. Okay. So if you're in the midst of dealing with kind of an ugly situation or one that's potentially ugly, and you don't want it to get worse, you don't want it to, the drama to expand, or, maybe one of the ways you can approach it is, calling in Zadkiel and asking him to help, clear out your heart so you can approach it with more compassion. Because the more we approach something with compassion, it can help us to I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. It can help the whole situation. When we kind of let our guard down. Sometimes we need, in some situations, to let our guard down because we're too, right up there being feisty. But I know, and sometimes that's not always easy with some people who are just, um, there are some people out there who are just looking to incite dramas. There is a lot of that energy around now too. And so I think what this card refers to is, even if it can be difficult in a moment with someone where they're, dropping nasty, words at you, or being really negative with you, or as we see people in the world who are just kind of being very reactive, we can, as something that we can do towards that is to, in our own silent ways or words, send out compassion to those. Because if people are behaving in ugly ways, there's a lot within them that they're not able to maybe deal with or handle. So by sending that compassion in. But anyway, Zadkiel can assist us with this process, because one of the things I learned about him was that he's kind of like a chimney sweep for your heart. He can help to lift some of the burdens and some of that deep resentment sometimes that we can have in some situations or life circumstances, that kind that leads to grudges, things like that. So, but I think one of the big messages that stands out is you have to be willing to give yourself that compassion first. I know it's really easy sometimes for us to be negative on ourselves. And I know that's one of the things I've been exploring with myself in this Mercury retrograde. You know, when something comes up and I'm kind of like, oh, I'm kind of down on myself because I was forgetful or I should have known better or whatever. Oftentimes we're making it mean something else. Like, oh my God, I'm so pathetic. If I was only better, or, if I was only better organized, we get down on ourselves. So being compassionate starts with yourself, very much like a lot of things. Be willing to give yourself some compassion for whatever you're dealing with right now. Okay. Aside from what's going on in the world, in our political world, the world at large, with climate change and natural disasters, earthquakes, things like that, everybody's a little uptight. And there's a lot that needs compassion right now. So that's what their angel messages are for us. Okay. So now, moving on to Wisdom of the Oracle cards. So I pulled out 4, and maybe we can think of them as one for each week, or, they also all tell a story together too. So the first one that came out is Building Blocks. Okay. As the kind of, if you want to say, like the anchor card. And Building Blocks is about laying a strong foundation. You know, whatever you're involved in right now, if you got some new projects going on, or you're making plans for the next, later in the year or the upcoming years, for yourself or maybe for your family or whatever that is, now is a time where you're laying the foundations of that. And even, us as a country, in a world as a whole, in the bigger picture of things, we are laying a new foundation of a higher consciousness. It is coming in. It doesn't always look like it in the physical world when we see all the ugliness come out on the media of what's going on. But there is a higher consciousness that is upwelling and awakening in all of us. And it is helping us, and the angels are helping us to lay a strong new foundation, okay, for going into our future. And even at the government level, I know we can't necessarily see it right now because a lot of what's in the media is, the lies and this one's being sued for that. This station has been telling lies about that. It looks ugly. But even, I want to say, at our government level, I sense that there are positive new foundations that are being laid or built, okay? And when I look at this card, it's a work in progress. It's at the beginning, so it doesn't look very pretty right now. If you think of a house that's being built, when they're getting ready to build a house, it's like they're digging all the dirt out, and before they can even get to laying the foundation. For a while, it really just doesn't look like much. So, anyways, let's see. But whether it's new relationships you're attracting in, whether it's plans you're making for the future, in May, strong foundations. We're building, laying the groundwork, okay, for things coming up down the road. All right. And we also have some serendipity coming in. And serendipity is really when luck meets opportunity, when opportunity meets preparedness, like what we're doing in our building blocks. Okay. And it's serendipity is positive, lucky card. So you might, run into somebody that you haven't known, or an unexpected opportunity, might come along for you. I just want to look at the card quickly. So yeah, it's kind of like sometimes good fortune appearing out of nowhere. Okay. Serendipity is a really cool thing to have. So that's nice. And I think it's tied to the foundations that we're laying too. So we also have our observer card, okay? And the observer is really when we take a step back and look at something from a broader perspective, okay? Because sometimes when we're in stuff and we're embroiled in it, it's really hard for us to see the forest for the trees, if you will, thinking of that expression. It's so sometimes we need to step back from a situation to really get the bigger picture. Okay. So there's an element of that coming on. All right. And there's any number of ways that that can play out. And I'll give you an example of it. If you're, a painter, or I used to make these things called, or I was very interested to make, when I was younger, I did quilting. And there was a type, it was a type of quilt called the watercolor quilt that I always wanted to make. And it was about taking different little squares of fabric from that were all different kinds, different colors, different, patterns and things like that, and putting them together in such a way that it made a picture, kind of like a Monet, where if you're up close looking at it, it just looks like these random brushstrokes, or it would look like these random, little blocks of fabric. But when you step back and look at it, it actually makes a beautiful picture when you're looking at it from, and sometimes we have to do that in not just areas of our life, or if you're working on a, intensely on a creative project, sometimes you need to walk away from it, and look at it from a different perspective. Okay. So that's what this card is coming into. It's maybe tied into the Archangel cards, and that's how they're working with us, when they're bringing that message to be more compassionate, or to, listen compassionately. Sometimes the way they help us with that is to have us take a step away. Okay. There was something I wanted to share with you about that too. I think I remember I got this card years ago, because I've been working with these cards for, geez, 20 some odd years now. But anyways, many years ago, there was a time in my life where I was going through a lot of, I had so much anger and resentment about a particular situation that I was going through, and especially a particular person. And I think one of these cards flipped up, like this one that said, have soften your heart, and with respect to the situation and the person. And I was so mad at the time. I think I almost yelled at them. Because, and we all have moments like this where I really didn't feel like being compassionate to the person I was thinking about. And, all of a sudden I heard, it's so funny because some of these cards actually were true to that time. No, yes, this one. Okay. So all of a sudden, I heard a message that had to do with having compassionate. They were urging me to have more compassion to this person. And I think, like I said, I was growling about it, like, but they said, no, this person is about to lose their mother, their best friend, and a possibility of losing something else. So it was kind of a mixed, like, not only a message from them, like a prescriptive message, like have more compassion, but I think it was also a prophetic message that, you will be able to have more compassion for this person. Because for me, when someone loses people who are near and dear to them, that is when my resentments fall aside, and I can be a lot more compassionate, because having been through the loss of a few loved ones myself, it's a difficult time. And so I'll always have compassion for someone when they've lost someone close to them. So in that moment, in that time when that happened, it did allow me to stop and take a step back and say, okay. And it did pop me out of that angry, kind of resentful place that I was in. So angels can and do help us in that way. And the last card that we've got for our month here is flexibility. The willingness to be flexible, adaptable, because, there may be a lot of changes going on in your world, and in your personal world, but also in the world at large. If you're working on relationships and you're listening, you may be deciding to make changes. Okay. And it just signals the fact that it may be important to have some flexibility, be willing to be teachable and learn. Um, you don't have to compromise what's important to you, but, you know, being open-minded or, if you think of a trees and when they go through a heavy windstorm, I mean, there are some that have branches that break off, but mostly they bend and flex with the wind so they can survive. Um, they're still grounded in the earth, okay, but they're able to um, not be as rigid and to flow with the winds that are coming in. So there's an element of this as an outcome card. Um, it may symbolize, if you're working with relationships, that you're letting go of some of the rigidity that may have been there. Okay. Um, and being willing to be more flexible and work with these relationships that are in your life. So anyways, these are some of the messages that have come out for the month of May, and it'll be interesting to see how they surface. Okay. um, in a I want to say in a bigger, larger way, given the things that are going on in the world. As I mentioned at the beginning, in our world, we're building the foundations of a new consciousness. And as we do that, yes, there are opportunities where our preparedness for that, um, where luck meets with that preparedness, and there are opportunities that come forward. And we are looking to expand our perspective and get, um, I think we are going to be getting that, as this month progresses and more things come out in the news about what's been going on amongst our leaders and our government, et cetera, we are getting a much bigger picture of what's going on. He's got the little telescope there, which helps us to see things far away. It helps to bring them a little bit more up close, or it helps us to see them better. And that's a bit of what's going on. Things that have been seemed far away from us in our everyday world, we're getting a much bigger perspective of what's been going on in the background. And, flexibility, adaptability. We're going to have to adapt to changes that are going to need to be made. Okay. So, anyways, those are some of the messages that I get for our month of May. Okay. If there's any specific topics that you think that you might like me to do a reading on, please, leave it in the comments below. And please don't forget to hit the like button. And if you're interested in seeing more of these videos, please do subscribe. All right. Thanks so much for joining me. I look forward to being with you again soon. I hope you have a lovely evening and let's have a lovely and beautiful month of May. Thank you, everyone.